Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julian Pryke, and some of you will remember that I used to be publisher of IBJ shortly before Ray Gervin took up the reins with Glenbuck Publishing nearly 10 years ago. What you certainly won't know is that I also used to be a sports journalist, so imagine my delight when Ray invited me back to introduce one of sport's most inspirational stars and tonight's awards host, Kim Clijsters. Born in 1983, Kim is the daughter of Lee Clijsters, a Belgian international football player, and Els van der Skytersbach, a former national gymnastics champion. Kim has often said that the reason behind her great success on the international tennis stage was inheriting footballers' legs from her father and a gymnast's flexibility from her mother. And what success? Kim's Roll of Honor lists US Open winner 2005, 2009, 2010, Australian Open winner 2011, doubles French Open winner 2003, and Wimbledon winner 2003. But what sets Kim apart is how and when she achieved her stunning success. Firstly, she has the rare distinction of being world number one in both doubles and singles games. Having retired from the game in 2007, among other things to become a mother in 2008, Kim came back in 2009. Kim was the first mother to win a major since Yvonne Goolagong back in 1980, and the first mother to win the US Open since Margaret Court in 1973. And Kim was the first mother to hold the ranking of world number one since rankings began in 1970. So, to summarise, after being out of the game for 2 years, she returned to the circuit, and in that year's US Open, beat both the Williams sisters, the only person to have done that, by the way, and went on to win. Oh, and she won both the US Open and the Australian Open the following year.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's have one more round of applause for your champion, Kim Clijsters.
So, Kim, welcome. It must be wonderful to see all those great moments in your career. Looking at them, which was your favourite?
Probably the one with my daughter after I came back in 2009 when I won the US Open.
Well, you know, and talking of favourites, I know that many people here will be keen to know which exactly is your favourite dry bulk cargo?
Grain?
Grain, ladies and gentlemen. Grain. So, back to the beginning. Can you remember when you first thought that you were going to be a world-famous tennis player?
I never thought I was going to be. I always wanted to be, but I never, even when I was number one or won a Grand Slam, I never felt like I was at my best. I always felt like I could keep improving, and I think that was also one of my strengths, is that I could always feel like I had, you know, a lot to work for still, and never was satisfied with the level that I was making at the time.
And with regard to that, I mean, how much training and how many hours of work did you have to put in as a young athlete?
A lot of hours, depending on, you know, what stage of the season I was in, but it could vary from 2 to 4 hours a day to six hours of tennis, and then I had all the other stuff, you know, fitness workouts, and you know, with my physical coach, I had to do my rehabs and all that stuff. So in total, it was about, you know, sometimes 8 hours a day.
And so after all of that work, can you remember how it felt when you finally broke through?
It's a very satisfying feeling, you know, knowing that you have goals and you're able to achieve those goals. You know, once I won my first Grand Slam, that was almost something that I trained and worked so hard for the last 10 years. And then when it finally happens, it's a relief in a way as well, and it's a moment of where you're proud, but at the same time you think, okay, now the next one is in a couple of months. I want to really focus on the next one, and I want to keep it going.
So how do you prepare yourself, just before you go on court? What do you do to manage to find the strength to get on the court?
I was very superstitious, so I always tried to stick to the same routine. And there was it depended on when I would warm up, the things I would eat, prepare myself, get my tennis rackets ready, get my drinks ready. There's some players who like their coaches to do all that for them, but I never wanted anybody else to touch my rackets. I had a certain way to put them in my tennis bag. There was a certain order, and so I was probably a little bit extreme now that I'm out of tennis, but it helped me to stay focused in a crazy world.
It seemed to work, didn't it? So, on that, when it comes to preparing mentally, when you're a point behind at match point, how do you find the strength again to come back and push forward?
Because it's never over until that last shot is played, and then that's something. Because I was in situations too where I was a match point up, but I did feel like the match was close, and that last point is so hard to finish. And when I was match point down, I had the same reaction. I felt like, okay, I'm gonna make my opponent beat me, and really try to, stick with it and just believe in every chance until it's really over. And I've luckily, won some matches where I was match point down, but I've also lost some where I was up, and so it goes both ways.
Well, but you haven't just been a singles champion, as I mentioned earlier on. What does it take in doubles? What does it take to make a winning team?
You need to click as a team. I won the French Open and Wimbledon with a Japanese player, with Ai Sugiyama, and besides my doubles partner, she was also a really good friend, and we used to go out to dinner. We used to talk a lot about tennis, but we also knew each other off court, and I think that's something that's really important, because you practice hours together, you spend so much time together on and off court, that you need to have that relationship outside of what's happening on the court, and that was important. And obviously you need to match tennis-wise. You need to really help each other, and I was more the strength. She was really quick at the net, so I think we really helped each other there with our tennis.
Well, talking of pairs, you famously, as I said earlier on, you famously beat both the Williams sisters. How scary are they?
In the beginning, they were really scary when I was younger, and they give you like the stare down before they look at you like, I'm going to eat you. But after a couple of times, and I used to lose against them because I was so intimidated in the beginning, but once you get past that, and they're just a player, and you feel their doubt on court as well when they're standing in front of you, and once you felt that in certain situations, it's part of their tactics already before you start to play. So after a while, when you get a little bit older and a little bit more experienced, you don't let that get to you anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of smile suppressing going on here, Kim. We saw a touching clip of you and your daughter. Do you want her to be a professional tennis player?
No. No.
Dry bulk industry?
Maybe.
The bulk industry suffers from being able to attract young talent. I wonder, what do you think is the best way to get young people to excel?
I think motivation, is something that is important. I see it in our tennis academy in Belgium. I think it's hard to keep kids motivated because there's so many distractions these days, and I think motivation is something that's important. And so I think that's probably one of the main.
And finally, we have an audience of business people before us. So what have your experiences taught you that you might translate into their day-to-day workplace in order for them to reach the top in their chosen field?
I actually think there's a lot of similarities in between the business world and the sports world. I think something that's really important for an athlete is obviously the training, but is also to stay mentally fresh and to keep being able to handle things and to be fresh in your mind. And I think that's something that's in the business world is important too, is to step away from it once in a while and stay hungry, so that it doesn't become a burden. And of course that's easier said than done, I think, but I think that's probably something we should all try to aim for.
Yes. But ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed with the award ceremony, I thought it might be fun to spring some surprise quick-fire questions on Kim if she's game.
Okay.
So we can get to know her even better. So let's have a go, if it's okay with you, Kim. So these are only quick. So, for example, hard or clay?
Hard.
Right. Coal or cement?
Oh. Coal?
I knew she'd say that.
Why?
That's Serena Williams or Steffi Graf?
Steffi Graf.
I knew she'd say that. Mussels and chips. The mussels from Brussels.
Food, mussels and chips.
Handy Max or Panamax?
Handymax?
Of course. Federer or Nadal?
Ooh, tough one.
Give us some help, ladies and gentlemen.
Nadal.
Nadal.
Oh, sorry.
Tintin, and with a nod to the maritime amongst us, or Captain Haddock?
Tintin.
Last two, Bolliker or champagne?
I'm not a beer drinker, so champagne. Sorry, Belgium.
And finally, Belgian-born Audrey Hepburn or Liverpool-born Ray Gervin?
Definitely Belgian-born Audrey Hepburn.
Yes, is the right answer, Kim. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Kim Clijsters.